all of a sudden everything went dark, just total blackness. It's like my eyes are open, but I'm not seeing anything but darkness. And I'm kind of like looking around, and then I see this really tiny light at the bottom of my feet. When I got to the heart level, I saw this really tall black man, kind of dressed like in mummy tape. Had his arms out reaching for me. When I saw my body down there, I knew I wasn't in it anymore. All of a sudden, it's like someone jerked me in front of the center of the area where I was, and I was standing in front of Jesus. He said, "It's too soon. You're not supposed to be here yet. You have to go back."
Hi, May. My name is Vu. I'm the host for the Mystic Light channel. We are here to have people come on and talk about their near-death experiences. So
Okay.
it's nice. So it's an honor to have you here on today. So to start things off, just briefly introduce yourself and give us a little bit about your backstory.
Okay. All right. Are you ready for me to start yet?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. I'm Amy Jameson, and in 1976, I had a near-death experience. But before I go into that, I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I'm one of 5 kids born and raised in Texas, and I was raised as a strict Irish Catholic, so we attended Catholic catechism classes up through 10th grade. I always believed in Jesus, God, and the angels, although during that time, it was very difficult for me to understand what 3 in 1 meant. I could get Jesus and I could get the Spirit, but I didn't realize who that third person was, that is God himself. I never saw him, but I believed anyway, and I strongly believe in angels. So at the time this occurred to me, I was married, and I was a dental assistant, and I had gotten a really bad cold. And then for 2 weeks, I would cough off and on really bad, and I would have to turn my head with my mask and gloves on and keep coughing. One evening on the way home from work, as I was driving home, I felt a heaviness in my left arm. I thought I was maybe starting to have a heart attack or something, so I stopped at a payphone and called my spouse and told him to be on the lookout for me. And once I got home, it seemed to be a little bit better. So I'm a very energetic person. So I also did 6 loads of laundry with his help, and cooked dinner and cleaned the house. And then at that time, I was a cigarette smoker. So I sat down to smoke a cigarette. As I was smoking that cigarette, all of a sudden I felt like I just couldn't hardly breathe. So I put the cigarette down. I didn't light another one. And then I turned to my spouse and I said, "Would you please call me an ambulance or take me to the hospital?" He said, "No, there's nothing wrong with you. You're a hypochondriac. There's nothing wrong with you." And I said, "Please, I can hardly breathe." And he said, "No." And he kept saying that. He goes, "You're just a hypochondriac. There's nothing wrong." So finally it got so bad, I got up and called the local emergency room and talked to the doctor on call. That doctor said, "Is there anyone there with you?" And I said, "Yes, my spouse is here." He goes, "Put him on the phone." So he got on the phone, and all of a sudden his eyes got real big, and he slammed the receiver down, and he said, "Let's go." I said, "What'd that doctor say to you?" He said he could tell from speaking to you that you had a very difficult time breathing. And as a result, if you died on the way to the hospital or while in treatment, I'd be held totally responsible. I said, "Okay, good, let's go." So we went, they did x-rays, and they told me I had a spontaneous pneumothorax, which was a lung collapse. I had fluid in my lung, and I needed to have a chest tube insertion. So they got the operating room ready, and then they took me in, and they said, "Okay, we can deaden the skin on the outside, but when we go to put the tube in your chest, you're going to feel it going through the bones." And I said, "Okay." I didn't know what that meant, but as they did the chest tube insertion, all of a sudden everything went dark, just total blackness. It's like my eyes are open, but I'm not seeing anything but darkness. And I'm kind of like looking around, and then I see this really tiny light at the bottom of my feet. So to me, the way I will describe it is how it felt to me. I felt like I was a miniature version of myself inside my own body, going from my head down to my feet. When I got to the heart level, and I'm going like in a circle, when I got to the heart level, I saw this really tall black man, kind of dressed like in mummy tape. had his arms out reaching for me, and I stared around him. I didn't think he got me at all. So then I go out to the bottom of my feet and I come up. And when I come out of my feet, I'm at the top of the ceiling in the, at that time, the operating room. And I look down and I see myself and I go, oh, there I am. And then I look at myself and I go, but here I am. So it's kind of like no attachment to any grief, trauma, drama, heartache, pain, anything like that. I was a ghostly version of myself. I just looked the same. When I saw my body down there, I knew I wasn't in it anymore. So I feel like I'm standing in the clouds about, I'd say, 3 or 4 feet off the ground. And as I look to my left, I see the people down below. And I'm looking down then and I'm seeing the nurses talking to each other. And they're saying, oh, it's a shame she died so young. She's only 23. And then the doctor says, time of death. And he's recording that. And then I see my spouse in the corner and he's crying because, of course, he is going to be held responsible for my death. So he's crying for that reason. But for me, it's like there's no attachment other than, oh, I love everybody, I'm happy, and everything's okay. And so I turn around like I'm turning around in the room. And when I turn around on my left side, I see 2 angels. One of them looks like a little girl with long blonde hair. She has on a white robe, sandals, and big wings on her back. Then there's a little baby angel in a diaper with little wings, and he's flying around laughing, 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 and he's holding on to her robe. And then I decide, okay, I'm looking over to the right. When I look to the right, I see 3 relatives who passed away in their 60s to 80s, but they all look about, I'll say 40, mid 40s, but I still recognize who they were. So I'm going towards them and they're hugging me and we're hugging each other. And then I see this brighter golden light beyond those 3 relatives, but I don't make it there because all of a sudden it's like someone jerked me in front of the center of the area where I was, and I was standing in front of Jesus. And he said, without moving his lips, it was like mind to mind, he said, it's too soon. You're not supposed to be here yet. You have to go back. And he raised his arm, and when he lowered his arm, I was back in my body, blowing on the sheet, and the Catholic priest was still there giving me my last rites. And he saw that, so he pulled the sheet down, and he said, my child, you're back. It's a miracle. Will you tell me what happened? I go, yes, but I'm mad. He goes, well, why are you so mad? I go, because I was happy there. I didn't want to come back. And so I told him what happened. And after that point, for the first 5 years, I believed that that big, tall, black person wrapped like a mummy that I saw was a spirit that attached to me, and not a good one, because it would do things to me like, my husband at first. My husband would be sleeping, and all of a sudden in the middle of the night he'd wake up saying, stop pulling on my feet, stop pulling on my feet. And I go, I'm not pulling on your feet, you're dreaming. And he goes, no, I'm not. Then he went back to sleep. It happened 2 or 3 more times during the night, and I still thought, well, he's just having a nightmare. And then the next day I was very tired and I decided to take a nap in the afternoon. My spouse was out in the property, way far out in the landscaping, doing some landscaping. So there was just myself in the middle of the day taking a nap. All of a sudden, I feel somebody, a big hand, cross 1 foot over the other and yank me from the top of the bed over the end of the bed to the floor really quickly. I jump up. I don't see anybody. I look out the window. My spouse is still way out on the property. It wasn't him, so I didn't know what was going on. And then the next night, this same spirit came and did that to my feet again. And this time he started running his hand up my leg to my private area. And I just started praying really hard. And my spouse wasn't there at that moment when that happened. But later that night, when we both went to bed, I felt like a cloud of darkness was floating in the air over me, and I felt like it was trying to suck the air out of me. And he said, do you see that thing above your head? I go, you see it too? He goes, yes. He goes, it's a succubus or something like that. And I said, what's that? He said, it's like a bad spirit trying to get all your good energy because you have good energy and it wants to get into you. And I go, well, it's not getting into me. But I felt like it was. So I said, let's join our hands and pray really hard and pray it back to Jesus. Said, you're not allowed here. Get out, get out. And it left. What I didn't know at that time was that whoever's in the home during that time needs to be in the home when you bless and yell the spirit away and you bless your home with sage. My daughter and granddaughter were in the home living with us at that time. So the spirit left me and followed them and attacked my daughter a couple times in the night when beside her husband, where it would grab her neck and hold her up against the wall, and she'd be kicking and he would pull her down. And then they had their house saged and blessed and did the same thing. It went away. But for 5 years, I had to deal with that spirit before it went away, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, I called priest, I called the bishop. I got blessings from priests and a blessing from the bishop and saged my home, and I did everything I could think of. And it just took 5 years for it to get away before it would leave. And then after that time, shortly thereafter, I started having, I'll call them nightmares of bad things that were going to happen to my immediate family and very close friends. And they would repeat themselves. In other words, it would be like a bad nightmare every night. And I got tired of it after a while. So I said, I'm going to try something. I'm going to try to tell the person what I saw that was in that dream or vision, and then it'll be okay. And I did that. And that's exactly what happened. I would see a movie trailer version of things that were going to happen, like beginning, middle, and end of the movie, but not the full details. In the end, they would be okay, except I was shown 5 deaths, and those deaths did occur. Um, it was pretty scary because for the longest time, I just didn't know what to do with those. I'll call them nightmares, but they were actually visions. They were so vivid. Once I got up, I remembered it in detail, and it would just keep happening until I tell the people. Sometimes it would happen within 2 days, sometimes 2 months, and then that would be it. I wouldn't have that vision anymore. So I had that for about 40 years that went on. It still goes on, as a matter of fact. I still get messages that way. I've had loving relatives who were going to be passing, and they would be either semi-conscious or unconscious. They would come to my bedside in spirit form and say, okay, tell so-and-so this, or I'm not going to be able to talk tomorrow. Go tell your kids that so they can come see me. And I did. The first time I told them, they didn't believe me, of course. The second time I told them, okay, look, your grandpa came back to me in spirit form, and he said, tomorrow he will have a stroke. He won't be able to talk, but you guys, he wants you to come say goodbye. He'll still hear you. So they went, and then I said to my son, he's not going to make it to the nursing home 5 days later. He's going to pass in the hospital. And I said around 10:30 in the morning, and my son called me later that day, 5 days later, and said, Mom, you were right. He passed away at 10. I go, okay. So I became, I would say, the messenger, where I would be giving visions of things that were going to occur, usually always close friends or family members.
Okay. So you said that this like black spirit wrapped in like mummy tape. You
Yeah,
said
he was very tall,
like
very tall.
can you like explain like how did it manage to find you, and why did it like want to like terrorize you for so long?
I never knew that answer for many years until I met many other different people who have had similar or worse experiences and good experiences. And they would each have their own similar version. And some people would tell me they had a spirit haunt them for a long time. My belief personally, and what I've been told, other people that I've talked to said the same thing. If you have any negativity, trauma, drama, hurt, or pain, that's how the spirit attaches to you. So in order to get rid of the spirit, you have to change your thinking to a more positive mode and try not to be engaging in any of those things. So like, let's say you go to a bar and you're having drinks, and when you come out, you might not be acting as you normally would. All of a sudden, you're acting a little bit out of character, saying things you wouldn't normally say. That would usually indicate that you had a negative spirit attached to your soul. For me, believe it or not, I had 7. I went into college in my late 60s, and in that college, it was a holistic mind, body, spirit college in Arizona. And at that college, they taught us spirit attachment, spirit releasement, just so many different topics on that nature. Everybody there had a gift of some sort. It's kind of scary at first because you'd be walking down the hall and I'd talk to some girl and she'd go, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And I'd say, "Fine, how are you?" She goes, "Oh, I just want to let you know your Aunt Irene is standing right beside you." And of course, I'm looking, there's nobody there, and I go, "Really?" Well, she didn't know me and she didn't know my Aunt Irene. So she had to be telling me the truth because she was describing her to me and everything. And things like that would happen on a normal basis. There would also be people who had bad spirits attached to them when they came into that class or the building, and other people would say, "I see darkness around that person." Another one would say, "I feel it." Another one would say, "I see it." It was quite the experience to go to this college for 4 years, but I felt very much at home because I felt like an oddball with all these things that happened to me, and I didn't know why. I couldn't explain why that happened, other than the fact that I think it was the negativity and all the drama and trauma that I had.
Okay. So how are you able to like deal with this sort of like spirits trying to like attack you? Like, did you could seek any like spiritual help or help from like religious leaders or anything like that?
Yes, I grew up Catholic, so for me, everything was Catholic religion. And I said, okay, first I went to my local priest, and he told me, do the saging, do the positive prayers, light white candles, do this, do that. And I did all those things. That didn't work. Then I went to a higher up bishop, and he said the same thing, and I did what he said. That didn't work. It wasn't until my husband and I joined hands and yelled and prayed it away that it actually left and went to somebody else, which unfortunately was my daughter at that time. But she had to do the same things to get rid of it from around her.
Hmm.
I just believe that you can pick up a negative energy anytime you're negative or you have a lot of hurt and pain from trauma that's happened to you over your lifespan. They thrive on that energy. And if you're, of course, super depressed and stuck in that mode, you may or may not have a spirit attachment around you. Or it may show signs of paranormal or different things that occur. Unfortunately, the first husband I was married to when I had my near death experience at 23, he didn't believe in any kind of a God or Jesus or angel. So for him, he was more scientific believing. He believed that Jesus was an alien. I used to laugh at that for many years until I thought back about it and talked to all the people that I spoke to over the years. I'm like, you know what? Jesus is a superpower. He did things that were superpowers. So who's to say if he's an alien or not? I don't know. I believe personally, through the people I've talked to over the years, is that we all have a happy place in our mind. That happy place could be a fishing pond, a garden, a forest, whatever it is for you, where you're happy the most. When you're stressed, you go there in your mind. I believe that when we pass away, Jesus will connect with us in whatever religion we are in. Let's say you're Hindu, and then you'll see a female goddess. That'll be the same creator. It's just going to present to you in a different way, and you go to your happy place when you pass. Just my personal belief from all the people I've spoken to over the years.
Okay. You said that this spirit is latches onto you when it have some sort of like difficult moments in your life, like trauma or like some kind of negativity.
Right.
Like what did you like? How did you deal with that sort of negativity and difficult moments in your life? Like how did you deal with that to ward off that spirit?
Okay. Well, after my near death experience, that's when I started to learn how to deal with it because I read a lot of self help books, and I also went on a spiritual quest to different churches. I wanted to find out how other people worshiped. And I did go to all the different churches I could think of and saw how they worshipped. Some of them were quite scary, actually. Coming from Catholic growing up. But when I had my near death experience, I turned more spiritual. It wasn't religious so much. I think that everybody has a different belief or a different religion or non-religion even. They're atheist even. Because we're not all the same. And Jesus is going to connect with them in their way, their happy place, their belief. That's my thought about it. So is he an alien? He could be. He could present himself that way. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had like nightmares about like, or more accurately, visions of like things bad things that will happen to you, and they all came true, more or less,
Yes.
right? Did you
It was
have?
mostly to my other family members, and most of it was my sister and my niece. Unfortunately, like kidnappings, stabbings, fires, they all occurred. In the end, they occurred, and I saw visions of pieces of it, and it happened in pieces of it, not exactly as it happened to them, but the same. In the end, they were okay. If I told them they were okay, if I saw a death, there wasn't anything I could say or do to change that. The death occurred. But luckily, that didn't happen but 5 times, and that was with elderly relatives. And one who was not so elderly, he was 23 when he passed. I saw my daughter's fiance of 8 years pass away in a car accident. I was shown that, and that was one of the biggest awakenings that I had because I was sound asleep in bed. Next thing I know, I'm sound asleep, standing up in the middle of the floor, crying and screaming for what I saw.
Okay.
And it happened just as I saw it.
Hmm. All right, but I want to ask to like branch off of that. Did you have like visions of like larger prophecies that may happen to like not just to you but or me but like to like everyone on to like all of humanity? And
No,
no,
for
no,
me, it was not like that at all. It's not like you can't come up to me and sit in front of me and say, "Hey, what's going to happen to me in a year, a week, or whatever?" I don't know unless I'm shown that in a vision. I couldn't tell you. For me, I'm more of what I call a messenger because I believe in the angels and I'm connected to the angels from when I went there in heaven and came back. I can do intuitive card readings. That's what I do. I'm empathic, meaning I feel people's emotions after I'm talking to them for a while. I can tell them different things that I feel that they're feeling. Okay, that type of thing. But it's not where you can sit before me and I tell you what's going to happen next. I don't know either. So, that being said, same thing for me. The people who would show themselves to me in a vision, usually telling me all these things, were what I would call elderly senior people. They said they were the keepers of a giant mansion in the sky in heaven that held everyone's records. It was called the Akashic Records, records of everyone on earth, billions and billions of people. And I also believe in reincarnation because I have felt many times where I've gone different places and I've been there before. I've seen and heard things that are very familiar to me, like I know what's going to happen.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so in while you were in your near death state, you said that you encountered like two angels, right?
Right.
Did they say anything to you about like what will happen to you in the like in the future, or like what will happen to your family, or did they say anything to you at
No,
all? Or
no, but the weird thing about that was their father moved to California. We divorced, and I was in Texas. So they would fly back and forth and visit between the two of us. And one time when they were about 13 and 12 years old, I'm waiting at the airport and they're flying with the stewardesses. So when they walk down the gangplank, I see them coming. When I saw them coming, it was the exact two faces of the girl angel and the baby angel that I saw in heaven. So to me, I was shown those were going to be my children that I had, and I did have them.
oh
Yeah.
wow, so,
They
well
didn't
that
tell me
is quite
anything. They just showed
yeah,
up.
it's quite the prophecy. And also you encountered like your dead relatives in your near death state. Did they say anything to you? Did well, if so, what did they say?
Okay, like the children's grandfather, their dad's father, he was in a coma, and he came to me to my bedside. I could see him. I wasn't all the way asleep. I could see him standing beside me, like in a ghostly version, like when I saw myself. And he said, "I wanted to say thank you for being with my son and for the children you gave us. And I'm asking you to please watch over them all." And I said, "Okay." And he goes, "And I'm going to be in the hospital for a while. Tell the kids to come see me." So I went to my kids' house the next day and I told them that, they blew it off. They didn't know what to think.
Oh,
So that came about. And then the very next night he came back to my bedside and he goes, "Okay, now tomorrow I'm going to have a stroke. I'm not going to be able to talk. I will be semi-conscious, but I will still be able to hear them. Please tell the kids to come say their goodbyes to me." So I told them exactly that, and they went. And luckily they did. And then I told him, he came and told me he would not make it out of the hospital. 5 days later, he would pass at 10 o'clock in the morning, and he did. So once I told them those things and they occurred, then they understood, like I did, I'm a messenger. Whether I like the message or not, that's not the point. It was scary. I didn't know what to do for a long while about these messages until I said, okay, I'm tired of having them. Let me just try telling them what I see. The thing is, of course, oh, you're crazy. You don't know that. Everybody would say that for many years, even my mother, my sister. My sister would say, that's not going to happen. And then it would happen. And then she would call me up and she would say, well, it happened just like you said it was, but not exactly. So you're still crazy. But that doesn't make any sense to me either, what you're saying to me.
Yeah, and then they will be proven so wrong later on.
Right, but I'm like, okay, I don't know how to make you understand. This is coming from heaven, from God, from the angels. I don't control this. They do. I'm just a messenger,
Yeah.
so. But over the years, more and more people have been opening up to it. But I will tell you that still people will look at you and call you crazy. And I believe firmly, stand your ground, speak your truth. You know what happened to you. You know what's going to happen, where you're going to go when you go there again. Just try to help as many people as I possibly can. So I do that. I became a master life coach, a hypnotherapist, a non-denominational ordained minister. So I do weddings and blessings and life celebrations. And I wrote a book about my near-death experience. It's Visions from Above,
Mm.
My Journey, My Destiny by Amy Jameson, which is my pen name.
Yes.
And that's for sale on Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com.
Okay.
And part of what I do with this, I like to help people by doing hypnotherapy sessions and intuitive card readings. So I offer intuitive card readings for $10 for watching your program, and for $50 for the hypnotherapy for an hour, hour and a half.
Mhm.
I'm doing that now, and people can contact me through my email, which is leecherie66@gmail.com.
Yes.
That's my given birth name backwards, Sherry Lee.
Yes.
And I ask people to text me, don't call me, but text me, because I do work another care providing job and I do a lot of these interviews. So I'm quite busy, but I do help people as much as I can. 602-727-9797. I like a lot of sevens on the number.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It is indeed a lucky number.
Yes.
Yeah. So to sort of close this out, what were some of the lessons that you learned from this experience, and like the public at large can take them to heart?
Okay, so I learned that there's good and evil. I don't particularly believe in a hell, although I've spoke to one girl who said that Jesus took her on a train and shoved her upside down, holding her feet into hell and back up, because she was a member of the Bloods and she did bad things, and she told me that. But she had a big awakening after that. After that happened, she really went very spiritual, thank goodness. But so I believe in the dark side and the light side, but I always believe that the light will overcome the dark. Good will always overcome evil. I believe that our hell is right here on earth, and it's created by our own free will choices. If we make bad choices, we suffer the consequences, and to me, that's the hell that we are going to experience. I believe that everyone will go to heaven, even people who do bad things. I believe there's different levels of heaven, just like education. Like you'll be in the ground, a worm, a dog, a cat, go up, 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 and Jesus will take you that way, depending on how long it takes you to learn your lessons. There was a neurologist in Virginia. His name is Eben Alexander. He never believed in the afterlife. He never believed in a religion or a spiritual person. And then he had a car accident, and it happened to him. He had a near-death experience. And he wrote a book called Proof of Life. And that book is a very good book to start with, because he tells you he started out as a worm in the earth because he didn't believe anything. And then he advanced up into different layers into heaven. And I believe that that happens that way too.
Okay. Um, yeah, so I guess I got nothing else to say because like, wow, because you laid out your story like in pretty hefty detail. So I guess I just want to say thank you for joining us today.
Before you let me go, I have one
Yes,
important message, okay?
yeah, yeah, please.
Uh, People usually ask me, what is the one thing that I could tell you from my experience that would help everyone? And here's what I believe it is. When your body dies, your soul does not. Your soul is the vaporized version of you that goes out of your body and goes to heaven. I believe that there's no negativity, no trauma, no drama, no attachment to any hurt or pain. So once your soul leaves your body, it's all love, it's all happiness, because that is what I experienced. And I did some sins, and I thought Catholic religion told me you're going to go to hell if you sin. Well, I never went to hell. I don't know what it looked like or where it was, but I
Yeah.
believe that it's right here on earth. That's my personal belief.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you have an argument with someone you love or care about very much the night before. You call them bad names, you say terrible things, and then they die the next day. Well, you left behind are going to feel just totally devastated and so sorry, so regretful. The other person, when their soul leaves their body, they see you and all they see and feel is love. Unfortunately, you're the one who has to deal with it all to get rid of it. They let it go the minute they exit their body. That's the best thing I can tell people, because they say, oh my God, I had a fight with them. I said this, I said that. They don't take that with them to heaven. It's only good things.
Hmm. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's a really good that's a strong note to end on. Yeah,
Right.
once again, I would like to say thank you for joining us today, Amy. And yeah, thank you for sharing your story. This has been Mystic Light. My name is Vu.
Thank
And
you for having me. I really appreciate it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Again,
How did you get into it? How did you get into it? Just
um,
curious.
it's just mostly out of like curiosity and research. I don't, to be honest, I don't really look at the religious or spiritual side of it, but rather the sort of the science and the metaphysical side of it.
Right.
So
There's a universe, there's something out there. Everybody
yes,
believes that. And I
yes,
believe that people like you're describing yourself also will have a similar experience to what you're describing, because that's the way you feel and what you believe. And that's how you're going to connect.
yes, yes.
Yes.
That's indeed true. Yeah.
Mhm.
Again, thank you. And
Thank
have a good rest of your day.